Look, two kinds of chips.
Flat or Richie? You make the call.
You're listening to the Lawndale Lowdown.
The Lawndale Lowdown.
You're standing on my neck.
Hello and welcome to another fun-packed episode of the Lawndale Lowdown. Disclaimer, this might not necessarily be fun-packed, we'll have to wait and see. My name is Mike, aka Ognok, joined by Princess Pastor once again. Hello.
Hello.
So this is I was going to say, this is the difficult second episode. Is the phrase the difficult second album or the difficult third album? I never remember. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I was going to say, I think it's third.
It's like the musical term. No, the difficult second album, apparently. That's what the Intertubes tells me. And, you know, if it's on the internet, it must be true.
Has to be.
Has to be. Can't be a lie. So, this is episode 2, which I already just said about 3 times, in case you were keeping sore at home. If there's ever a drinking game after this podcast, then who knows.
Oh, no.
One for every time I go too fast or trip up over my own words. Have fun with that, and make sure you're not driving while you're playing it, will you now? Wishful thinking that anyone would do this. So anyway, this is. I think it's fair to. Well, I don't know about you, but I got quite a decent amount of feedback from the first episode. A lot more than I was expecting. Anyway, I was expecting it to just die on a vine or something, and nobody would care.
That was kind of how we went into this. Low expectations.
Yeah, and it exceeded even our low expectations. You know, we got feedback and more people actually listened to it than I thought would. So that's nice. Not that we're in it for the listeners. We're more in it for the money, which we would ask, well, why the hell are we doing it then? Because we're not getting it. This costs money. It doesn't make money. Well, it doesn't. Well, anyway.
We are accepting the donation.
I was going to say it doesn't cost you money, but you went and bought a headset, so technically speaking, it did cost you money as well.
Yes, it did cost me money. We are accepting donations.
Yes,
$1,000.
We haven't decided where you can send them to yet. We're sort of still working out the fine details of that. So anyway, thanks to everyone who made comments about the first episode. We're sort of. We have discussed sort of ideas for sort of future things we can do, and we don't want to sort of go crazy in the early days and sort of try different things. We want to I think we want to just sort of try and establish a little bit of a base to build on, essentially. You know, just sort of get into the rhythm of it and then do new stuff as we go. I think that's probably. You know, I don't want to run before we can walk, as the saying goes. You know, it's just.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not burn the place down before we've built it. Or something like that, I don't know. How many more of these can I come up with? I'm not going to bother. Hopefully this will be improvement. The first episode was a little bumpy, but you know, even though I have podcasted before, this is the first time I've sort of been in relative control of things. I'm usually just taking a backseat to other people, so...
You're getting your time in the spotlight.
It's Mike's time to shine. I don't know. Yeah, this is the straight-laced guy here, you know.
Oh yes, clearly, yeah. Yeah,
clearly, I'm blowing that out of the water, right out the gate, I don't know. Right then, so I think what we shall just do immediately, if I can recover where I was, I think we're just going to go into the episode that we're going to talk about, which is the second episode, The Invitation, which is a lot less piloty than the first one. So what I thought we'd do things in, I think, the opposite order to how we do it the first time, which is briefly talk about what we thought of the episode first, and then go into the sound bites. I think
that'll probably go.
That might work better. I don't know. Rather than me just fumbling around saying, "Oh, I've actually got a clip for that," and then just playing the wrong clip as I did, which I can't remember if I left. I can't remember. Did I actually leave that in? I can't remember. I think it left me in getting the wrong sound clip that I think you did. Yeah, I did cut a couple of bits out, not much. Just things that I thought, no, this doesn't need to be in here. The first episode kind of felt like a pilot. This one felt more of a sort of a fully, I don't even say fully fledged episode, but you know, it felt more like, okay, we've got.
You get more of like an idea of what the show is about.
Yeah, I think this is. Well, I think you were saying before, if for someone who wants to know what the deal is with Daria, this is probably the best episode to start them off at, rather than the first one, really.
Yeah, to me, it's more, the first episode, like we said, I mean, it's very piloty, but this one, it's just humor is basically the name of the game with this episode.
So anyway, the summary taken from Outpost Daria Reborn. Brittany invites Daria to her upcoming party to thank you for helping her in art class. When Daria finds out that Quinn will also be at the party, she decides to attend, with Jane tagging along, in hopes of humiliating her sister. We both watched this earlier. You were more watching it for the thing. I was watching it to get sound clips, because I had, like, you know, it's not like I've had 2 weeks to do it, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, very true.
let's get the sound clips, like, 4 hours before we're due to record, shall we?
That's how we do it
It's
here.
organised. You know, I'm off work today, so, you know, cut me some slack. Or don't. It's up to you. So there's a lot of characters. This sort of introduces a lot more characters from the first. After the first one, you've got, I think, the 3 J's of the first one. They weren't in the first one. They were in this one.
No, yeah. This
You
is
immediately
when we
get the Quinn sycophants.
Yeah, we get them, like, right as soon as the show starts.
They're not contractors. There's a reference for a future episode. So they're first introduced as basically falling over themselves to do things for Quinn. Yeah. So do you want to sort of go ahead, because you were watching this specifically to watch it, whereas I was looking for sound clips.
Yeah, I watched this just to get a refresher. I've seen the episode way too many times to count. And at this point, it's pretty much like I've memorized most of it. But I think the kind of one of the key characters we're introduced to is Brittany. The 3 J's we get more of, like, as the episode goes on. But Brittany, we get how she is basically even more so than the first episode in art class, when she is struggling to understand the concept of perspective terribly, which Daria pretty much has the hang of. And we see just right off the bat, she's very ditzy. Doesn't even I feel like that's an understatement to describe Brittany as ditzy, because she's just the typical high school cheerleader in that sense.
Even from her comment about her comment in the art class about having to take remedial art, which seems like to me, living in a different country, the idea of doing remedial art seems weird to me, because when I was in high school, art was just basically, when they calculate the averages in the school I went to, art and music weren't even counted. So
It's because they're electives. They're not even like a core class.
it's like, it was art, music, and I think that was the only 2. It was like we had to do them, but they weren't counted in the average because they weren't classed as sort of. I think particularly with art, I think it was more down to the taste of the teacher. I think, really.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd be given, like, a theme, and we'd have to do something with that theme. So,
Well,
anyway,
Brittany's the one who thinks that they're going to make all the righties become lefties, or the lefties become righties. So clearly, she doesn't know much.
Yeah, I have that here, in fact.
If I don't figure this perspective thing out, I'll have to take remedial art. I heard they make all the lefties become righties.
But you are a righty.
So, that's a good start.
Yeah, like.
And then she goes to actually look at her hands, and we get Daria basically using them all to give her an explanation of how it works.
Yeah, that whole bit where she's explaining to her, you know, like, oh, you're at the mall and it's far away. It's just like seeing her try to teach. It's like almost watching someone try to teach, you know, a 4-year-old about something.
Which I almost think is what they were trying to go for. It's trying to show, probably, or as if Daria was thinking, that's the level of intelligence I'm dealing with here. Because obviously, Brittany knows who Daria is. Daria knows who Brittany is. So it's not like the first time they've met. So there's that. And so as sort of a thank you for getting her through art, she invites her to the party, of course.
Yeah, that's
which is
something that Daria doesn't want to go to anyway. So it's kind of a lose-lose.
Yeah.
In her instance.
And I'm trying. I could have sworn I actually captured that, but apparently that was one of the few things I actually didn't capture, which is peculiar.
Oh, the part in the lunchroom where
I might have. Let's see. I do have a clip here of them in the lunchroom. So let's see how long that actually is.
Maybe I could help you out with something.
Well, you could show me how to twirl hair around my little finger and look vacant.
I don't know if that's something you can teach.
Okay, so that's as much of that as I picked up. I can't believe I didn't capture the I'm overcome with emotion line.
Which is right after that.
I mean, you can tell clearly. I think you can tell clearly that Daria doesn't want to go because of and because she's talking to Jane about it. What's the line? You know, are you going to go? And she says, "Yeah," and then I'll swallow glass. That sounds interesting. So anyway, she's talking to Jane about it, which she says. She basically suggests, doesn't she, that she's suggesting that Jane could essentially go as her, really, because all unpopular people look alike anyway. So,
yeah, when you're popular, all unpopular people look the same.
So anyway, obviously then we get probably one of my favourite Jane lines when she actually tries to do it. Well, she tries to impersonate Daria.
Hi, I'm Daria. Go to hell. It won't work. My face is too expressive.
Which is just perfect.
I think this whole episode is an initial view into sort of how Jane is clearly more outgoing than Daria is.
She has no issue kind of just, even if she knows the party's gonna be stupid, to her it's like, why not just enjoy the madness? But Daria's just like, I'd rather avoid it at all costs.
We get Kevin again, and I think we get introduced to Mac for the first time, and immediately we get shown to a running gag that runs throughout pretty much the entirety of the series.
Yo, Mac Daddy, you coming to Brittany's party?
Don't call me that, okay? What's this party for anyway? Stop if it starts to hurt.
Really?
The Mac Daddy jokes, that's the first time that happens.
Yeah, and they go on forever. And Kevin,
I forget how
the poor guy.
I forget how sarcastic Mac actually is at times.
It's hard to be anything but around Kevin.
Yeah. So how many times does he get called Mac Daddy throughout the entire course of the series? That's the first one, anyway. And speaking of running gags, there's sort of the early running gag of nobody getting Jamie's name right, which is sort of lasts for a while. And I think I've often wondered, you know, why does it's not a difficult name to get right, really, is it? I mean,
no, I guess maybe the point is that they're all pretty interchangeable, but for some reason it seems that he's just, he's the worst one.
Yeah, to the point where in a later episode he's actually amazed that somebody gets his name right.
There was actually a part in this when towards the end where something happens like that as well.
Yeah, Quinn gets it right in the end, but anyway, this is Kevin getting it wrong anyway.
Hey, Joey, Jeffy, Jeremy.
I'm Jamie.
Whatever.
I just love the dismissive tone of that. Whatever. Quinn does the same thing earlier in the episode when he corrects her, just like whatever. It's like nobody.
It's like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, nobody even cares that they got his name wrong. They end up going to the party anyway, and then we get introduced to Trent for the first time, Jane's brother. One of Jane's brothers, but the only one who appears multiple times. The only one that matters. The only one that matters. And boy, I wasn't around for the early days of the fandom, but yeah, the subject of many shippers. So here's pretty much Trent's first. So here's Trent's first thing anyway.
I've been practicing for 10 hours straight.
Daria, would you say sleeping with a guitar in your hands counts as practicing?
As long as you don't drop it.
That pretty much sums Trent's attitude up anyway.
And that's him. Like, there's no other, you don't need any other explanation there.
I wonder if this is the first very slight hint of the whole crush thing as well. It's implied that Daria doesn't actually speak to him, and she sort of mumbles a goodbye when they get dropped off.
Yeah, this is like kind of the first,
It's a hint. It's not until later in the season that it's obviously made very obvious. But I think retrospectively, when you're watching it for the first time, you don't really pick up on it until you go back. I suppose you initially think she's just being a bit nervous or whatever, and then it's not until till later episodes that it becomes obvious perhaps why she's like that anyway. And then they get the party, and this is where the real snarking begins. So pretty much the first thing they notice when they get in is the chips.
Look, 2 kinds of chips.
Flat or Richie? You make the call.
That weird sax music in the background, by the way.
That's just like the perfect backdrop for the whole party.
Yeah, I just love also how Daria is sounding very over enthusiastic when she brings up the chips.
Yeah, it's kind of like this is, you know.
Look, 2 kinds of chips. I probably overdid it there, but you know.
It's like this is what we came here for, the chips.
Which leads to the introduction of Upchuck, of course, which the episode was written by Andy Bernstein, or Bernstein, depending on how you want to pronounce that. I don't know.
Close enough.
Close enough, it'll do. We got there anyway. But, you know, I just find it interesting that she effectively created the character. That's quite funny.
Yeah, it's like, here we have just...
various things. I mean, you know, they obviously know he wasn't invited. He must have had some reason for being invited. They didn't, you know, pretty much like Daria was invited for helping her with the art. You know, they pretty much figure out, you know, she didn't just invite him for no reason. It's like, you know.
Yeah, he's too unpopular to be invited.
Yeah, he dissected a frog. That was the reason she gave them. It's just the way she says it, like, yeah, I know, I wouldn't be here normally. It's the tone of his voice. And then we're talking about Jane's outgoing nature. So there's the two guys who sort of like the look of them for some reason. Well, they sort of just
which is kind of funny considering the rest of the show. Like, and suddenly, for some reason, these 2 guys are interested in them.
Yeah, which leads to probably one of the single most sarcastic put downs that Daria ever says in the series. And it's quite long as well.
My favorite line.
So, where you girls been all our lives?
Waiting here for you. We were born in this room, we grew up in this room, and we thought we would die here alone. But now you've arrived and our lives can truly begin.
She likes you.
Yeah, it didn't really work very well on them, did it?
No, it's like they're too dense to really understand.
Meanwhile, Jane's sort of trying to act all cool while, I mean, he kind of likes the guy with the big head.
Yes, Bobby Big Head.
That's the name we give him. No, he's not giving him another name. I think that's what Daria calls him anyway.
Yes.
And meanwhile, the 3 J's are trying to score brownie points with Quinn basically throughout the whole thing, and
she's trying to avoid Daria.
Yeah, she's trying to avoid Daria, and they're all trying to get her to basically go out with them, which leads to sort of, you know, each of them trying to do something for her, and she always complains about something. She always complains about it, wants something else, and they all end up whispering something to her about one of the others, try and put them down. And here's perhaps the probably the most bizarre one of the 3.
You know, Jamie is a really sloppy kisser. I heard it from a girl.
It's just the look on Quinn's face when he just has the first bit. It's like she recoils basically.
Yeah, like the look she gives him is just.
And he suddenly realizes what he just said.
Like, what in what universe would he think that was the best way to get her to be attracted to him?
And of course, Jamie himself, when she says she wants a square cracker, he basically nibbles the edges to make it square.
Hey, that takes some innovation there.
pretty uncharacteristically quick thinking on his part, to be fair. Although it wasn't the best way to go about it, really. You know.
No, not in the long run. The grand scheme of things, it was pretty stupid.
He doesn't even get a chance to put either of the other 2 down because Quinn just thinks it's gross. And rightfully so, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad moment.
No, so anyway, basically Jane distracts Daria by pointing out Quinn to her so she can go and torment her, essentially.
Yeah, where she
ends up in the laundry room, or the make-out room, basically. Once, you know, and it's the weirdest thing, because it's like, they know, I think those 3 always know that Daria's a sister.
Yeah, I feel like it does get mentioned way, way later on, but it's one of those things I feel like everyone knows, but they just, you know, it's one of those things to make Quinn.
Just make her not feel embarrassed or something, I don't know. And then, of course, they end up saying, oh, I don't care if your sister is nerdy and all this sort of stuff, you know. That's what I think, as we mentioned before, the word sycophants, that's what they basically are, and it leads to. But while Jane's in the make-out room, basically the soap gets out under the door and all over the floor. And
and it ruins Quinn's shoes.
Yeah, it ruins Quinn's shoes.
Oh no! These shoes are
I don't know why do people wear suede shoes to parties? Well, she obviously does.
Well, this is Quinn we're talking about.
Yeah.
Normal people
this,
probably wouldn't.
While this happens, while Daria is basically snarking at people the whole time, just entertaining herself basically while Jane's disappeared, and she eventually turns up anyway.
What happened to Bobby Bighead?
I wasn't really interested.
Too bad. Is this yours?
Okay, fine. He thought my head was a lollipop. Ready to go?
I was ready to go before we got here.
That's some serious...
I just love... I love Jane's just the way she's like, okay, fine. Like, you caught me.
You probably point out for a visual thing, because Jane's got a sock attached to her shirt, so that's why that happens. It just occurred to me that probably doesn't work quite as well without the visual, but you know.
It's always interesting to me, like, where does this sock... I mean, I know that it's supposed to be implied at the washing machine, but how does it get stuck to her if it's not in the dryer?
Going back to Quinn anyway, she basically ended up deciding to tell them all, to tell the three J's, I just want to be friends and all this, but, you could still pay attention to me and buy me things, but, I'm not going to date any of you, basically. And so they end up start arguing, and then eventually fighting. What was the line one of them says? You should have brushed... You're basically all blaming each other, and one of them says, you should have brushed your teeth.
Which is...
That seems like... That's quite worrying, that one, actually. And Quinn is naturally horrified by the fighting.
Stop it! Stop fighting! This is horrible. They're fighting over me.
This is horrible, like...
while sitting there looking completely sort of... Like, this is the best thing ever, basically, the expression on her face.
You have to wonder if maybe, like, she kind of wanted this to happen all along. Like, if she was kind of planning this.
Yeah, I also get the feeling that this isn't the first time that guys have fought over her, really.
It can't be.
No. So Daria and Jane end up leaving, and because the security guard that they met on the way in is in the party trying to find Jane. Because, to find out where she took the life drawing classes.
Oh my god! I just realized we forgot that.
What was the thing? It says you're really bursting out of the plane there, because it's like obviously one of the models that they're using, and obviously that's what because she gave that to the guard to distract him.
And it worked very well because the party gets crashed.
So basically, while he's in there, Daria and Jane just decided to amuse themselves by acting as security themselves.
Now, we'll have to ask you a few questions.
Is that your natural hair color?
Well, I never in my life
never colors it.
I have to say, Daria and Jane are very, in the later episodes, I feel like they hold back a lot compared to, like, this first season.
Yeah,
it's like they really just, like...
They're very snarky and almost bitchy, quite frankly, in the first episode.
Yeah, it's like they don't care.
And anyway, basically Quinn's trying to figure out how to get a ride now, because her ride is basically beating each other up and are scattered all over the table. And then it leads to another one of my favourite... This episode basically has a lot of my favourite lines from the series, if I'm honest.
Same here.
What happened to your fan club?
They beat each other up. It was kind of... What's that thing? When stuff turns out funny... moronic.
Ironic.
She was right the first time.
Just I don't know what more to say about that really, except it was just she was right the first time, basically.
It's just made better. You just hear her shoes.
Yeah, you hear her shoes squelching as she walks up. There's a later thing, isn't it? She says, we walk, and she says, but my shoes are wet. And then Uptruck basically pulls up in his car and offers them a ride, which is good, and this basically happens.
To your left, the home of the town director of public works, built on unstable landfill. To your right, a flattened squirrel. Straight ahead, the future!
Stuff a sock in it, Upchuck.
Feisty.
Yeah. I don't know, for some reason the flattened squirrel line just seems random on your... Was it on your left? A flattened squirrel?
Yes, it's just...
Just how casually he just says that as well. And I think that's where we hear Upchuck for the first time. Actually, the actual name used. I think, did Daria call him that, or did somebody else use it?
Someone does when he knocks on the door to the laundry room.
That's all I have in regards of sort of sound for that, or all the ones I'm going to play anyway. So yeah, I enjoyed that episode. It's one of the better ones. I don't know. I'd have to look later on and see if that's my favourite episode of the season, but it's one of them at least.
I'm gonna even go further and say it's actually one of my favorites overall. Yeah, I don't really know why. It's just I can watch it. I mean, not saying much, but I can watch it a million times and it still makes me laugh.
Yeah, I mean, as I've already said before, there's a lot of good quotes from it. The review that was written on Outpost Daria says this is a great example of Daria, of the show, this episode.
Yeah, it definitely is. I have to say it's very, I mean, when I think of Daria, that's one of the episodes I think of.
Just her sort of basically amusing herself by just snarking at various people and just... There's a lot more snark in the early episodes, to be honest, but there you go. So that's that anyway, so... Yeah, that was a good episode. Best episode so far. He says out of two episodes that we've covered. So,
that's saying a lot.
We're going to move briefly onto sort of the fan fiction section, which I kind of threw together. I'll be honest, I kind of threw together quite late on because I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't really think of anything to do. And then, of course, thought, the Daria Fanworks Awards. Talk about falling into your lap somewhat. You know, so that is the Daria Fanworks Awards, sort of an annual thing where people vote on their favourite fan fiction. And so we were sort of going to talk a little bit about the one that won a couple of awards. The Favourite Overall Award, particularly, is Ow My Ears, The Mystic Spiral Story by Charles R.B. It won something else as well. It won comedy as well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
It is probably, and it was quite frankly one of the funniest things I've read, which I'm working very well from what I remember of it. So the basic premise, it's basically kind of like it's written in the form of a documentary, really. I think that's
it's like a
behind the music kind of thing.
Yeah, there you go.
The main part seems to be that basically it documents their sort of rise and Max eventually leaving the band and trying to start his own thing. There's sort of two rival bands
with the same name, if I remember.
Yeah, I think Max kind of changes the spelling or something like that, or just... I think that's basically the only difference. They sort of adjust the spelling slightly or something. I don't remember everything from this, but I seem to remember throughout the whole thing, despite the success, they're still never portrayed as actually... Either band is never portrayed as still being good. They're still portrayed as being terrible.
It's basically like they became this kind of... Okay, I don't want to say it's kind of like a meme, but I mean, they're so terrible that people love them.
Well, they go viral. That's kind of one of the things, probably because of how bad they are. So it goes through a bunch. It goes through a bunch of. There's about 10 chapters of it, and it just goes through what happens to both bands and sort of. I'm pretty sure things don't really go well for Max. I think he keeps trying to do things, and it doesn't. Nothing ever works for him.
No, he's basically just failing. And he's still trying to, like, ride on the fact that he was part of Mystic Spiral, even though he left or they kicked him out. One or the other.
And I'm just reading through one of the chapters a bit, because everyone who tries to book Mystic Spiral has a 50-50 chance of booking the wrong Mystic Spiral due to the inherent laziness of the human species. So, that pretty much sums up people generally. I mean, even has a brief Beavis and Butthead appearance when they review one of the videos.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of my favourite things is Amelia turning up and ending up being in the original Mystic Spiral, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, which she was actually one of my favourite parts of that whole story.
There seems to be sort of some hatred towards Amelia for some reason. I've never got that, to be honest. I've never understood that, because she doesn't come across as a character that really people should hate. But that's just me. Generally.
Well, I think it's just her general, like, creepiness factor, how obsessed she is with Daria, that kind of makes her a bit weird. But... I mean, to me, she's just funny.
It was genuinely probably one of the funniest things I've read. Anyway, I really enjoyed it when it was. I came to it late. It was there, and I didn't start reading it until I think about halfway through it.
See, I started from the beginning, and I kind of just kept up with it as it was.
You liked it before it was cool.
Yes, I did.
You know, you know, I do enjoy sort of the more silly comedy fics out there, so that was good. I just wish I could write comedy. That would be good. You know, I wish I could write comedy as much as I like reading it. You know, I tend towards drama. So anyway, yeah, that was the winner of the Favourite Overall Fic at the FANWorks Awards. Link in the show notes. And, yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we move on to something else?
I think we pretty much, I think we pretty much touched on what I was going to say.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so I think with that, and I'll do something that I forgot to do last time, then we'll move on to this.
Next on 6 Ant World.
Ooh, fancy bumper. So anyway, just random thing that I happened to find. I was searching for something, and I found this. This list of 10 of the most unfortunate names ever given to people. So, you know, a nice little list of sort of just weird names. So I'm just going to go through these quickly. So these are quite old names, actually. I think these are all from, like, are they all from the 1800s? I think they are.
Yeah, because the beginning they talk about how people like to say nowadays people are naming their kids stuff like, you know, Harry Potter and things that are just crazy, but
suddenly Apple Martin doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's 10 quick names. Friendless Baxter, who was born in 1871 in Leeds. Presumably his parents thought he was a bit of an introvert. This taken from metro.co.uk, incidentally. Faith Hope Charity Brown was born in 1982 in Gillingham, Kent.
That's honestly one of the better ones on the list.
I wonder if her parents were religious.
That would make a lot of sense.
Next up, Leicester Railway Cope, who was born in a train carriage at Leicester Railway Station. So that seems pretty much fitting, I suppose, in a weird way. I mean, the tradition of naming your children after the place they were conceived continues to this day.
Oh no!
Yeah, I think that's what the Beckhams named their kids after whatever town they conceived in. Hence, Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so that's an interesting look into that. Anyway, time of day. I can't believe this one's. I can't believe half of these are real, to be honest. Was born in Hoo, Kent, in 1899. His parents clearly thought it was a joke that was only funny once was a suitable name for their child.
Yeah, that's.
I'd argue it wasn't funny the first time, but okay.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't really funny the first time, but now it's kind of like your whole life. It's gonna be that terrible joke.
Where's the time? I can't even think of a joke that uses that name. That's how bad it is. One too many Goldstone, born in Walthamstow, London in 1870. Maybe he was the last of 13 children.
Yeah, that's even worse.
That's just cruelty of the highest order. Windsor Castle, who was born in Nottingham in 1871. Her father was a bricklayer, so yeah, no relation to royalty. This is probably the most. I'm going to move on to what perhaps is the least bad of these ones. Zebra Lines.
Oh yeah, compared to the rest of these.
Yeah, this is fairly normal. In 1875, there is no record of her born in a zoo.
I mean, maybe it was weird for then.
Number 8, and oh boy, take a deep breath here. Right there. Anne, Bertha, Cecilia, Diana, Emily, Fanny, Gertrude, Hypatia, Yug, Jane, Kate, Louisa, Maud, Nora, Ophelia, Quince, Rebecca, Starkey, Teresa, Ulysses, Venus, Winifred, Xenophon, Yeti, Zeus, Pepper.
That's just.
I'm amazed at how I made it through that. Yeah, born in 1882. So in case you missed it, near to my neck of the wood, actually, near Liverpool. Notice that basically each of her names, she has 26 names apart from a surname, and each one is a letter of the alphabet. I wonder they're doing so much write that on a birth certificate as a birth scroll. I think.
Yeah, that's one of the. I think that's the worst one.
Yeah, probably just for the effort that they've got. They've gone to a lot of effort to do that. And Pepper. I'd fear for someone who had to write their full name on a form.
Oh God.
Then there's That's It. Who'd Have Thought It? Restel. I don't even know.
That's just. I can't even imagine. I mean, maybe.
Honestly, I understand things were different 120 years ago, but you know.
They must have been some stuff going on back then.
I'm convinced half of these were a bet. I'm convinced of it. And final, another less egregious one, Mineral Waters, born in 1892 in Rochford, Essex. Yet another child whose name was little more than a poor joke suitable for a Christmas cracker.
I mean, I went to school with someone named Crystalite, so that was pretty interesting.
To continue, basically the firm that went through all these names and went through all the records and happened to find these names, Fraser and Fraser. One of the partners, Neil Fraser, said, and I think this is pretty much a lesson for us all. As a parent, you'd like to give your child a name which you feel is unique and individual, but we should always remember the child has to live with this name. I'm pretty sure if a parent tried to name their child one too many nowadays, it wouldn't be allowed. You'd hope so.
I mean, I don't know. People are allowed to name their kids some crazy stuff.
I know somebody whose surname is spelt differently from their parents because his father spelt it wrong on the birth certificate while he was drunk.
Well, that's just careless.
Yeah, it's essentially the same surname, it's just missing a couple of letters. Yeah. So that was that anyway. 10 very odd names. Some of them more odd than others. I mean, you know, a couple of them, to be fair, weren't too bad.
Compared to some names I've seen before.
I think Zebra Lines, I mean, it sounds like a stage name for a singer or something, to be honest. Whereas the others just sound like horrible. Zebra Lines does at least sound like something that maybe someone would take on a performer would take on as a stage name or something. You know, at least
it's not, every letter of the alphabet.
Coming up next, 19 people with inappropriate, hilarious names. No, no, we won't do that. You just look at these things and wonder if somebody's made these up. So that's that. Anyway, I think on that note, I think we'll better get out of here on that note, I reckon. So yeah, that was the Lawndale Lowdown, and I said it was hopefully less bumpy than the previous episode, but I have the horrible feeling it was actually more so. But never mind. I think we'll wrap it up there, and we'll go to... No, we won't go to it, but you can go to thelawndalelowdown.com to find previous episodes. We're on iTunes, which actually happened shortly before we published the previous episode, but I never got... Well, it happened after we recorded the previous episode. So you can find us on there, rate, review, subscribe, do what you will. Be sure to leave us feedback as usual. We have an email address, lawndalelowdown@gmail.com. If you've got any questions, maybe you want to ask us some questions about what we think about various things in the show, you can do that if you want. That's something we're probably going to do in the future, is we're going to just sort of take questions from people about various things in the show.
It's on the list.
It's on the list of things we may do at some point. We're on Twitter. The show is at Lawndale Lowdown. I am at Ognork, OGNAWK. Pastor is at Pastor_Goddess, and I almost got that. I was almost going to go wrong with that and remembered it at the last second.
We should make that a reoccurring theme.
That's that. If you want, as far as other stuff, if you want to hear me and some other people talk about video games, should you wish to, there's another podcast I do called Reused Assets at reusedassets.com. We put out a new episode last week. And it was interesting, a lot of talk of Kickstarter and me going to Nottingham. So that was the thing. Pastor, anything you want to plug or point anyone in the direction of before we sign off?
I could, but it involves money and I'd feel really bad, so no.
No, you're not gonna go, oh, by the way, buy my stuff.
I could. I'm not going to. Not going there. You're not going to get me to go there.
If you go to Twitter, I think there's a link there anyway. So
yeah, go on my Twitter and find all about all that art stuff there.
So that's and we'll call it a show there. So next episode, I imagine we'll probably be doing. If I could remember what the next episode. What's the next episode of? The College Board, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, call myself a Daria fan, and I don't know that. Okay. So we're going to talk about that next week. No idea what we're going to do for fan fiction. If you've got any ideas, get in touch. The usual stuff. And that's going to do it. So until next time, goodbye.
La 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 la. La la la.